tukwataganire wamu okulabika nga naffe tulinako omukutu ogwa buli kiseera omuntu alinda bulinzi nti eddoboozi ly'omusuubuzi lyalunaku bwe luti ssaawa bwe ziti.
Further argued that a number of their customers have been making uninformed purchase decisions. This is because of inadequate information about the market and available goods and services.
Tubumbirire package y'okuliziganya n'abantu baffe tulina ebibe Mombasa, tulina ebibe Tanzania mu Arusha eri East African Community Secretariat, tulina ebibe Dubai, tulina ebibe China, tulina abantu ababibwako ebintu byabwe mu groupe Chicago, tulina ebizibu ebikwata ku URA, tulina ebizibu ebikwata ku National Bureau of Standards, tulina ebizibu ebikwata ku KCCA n'abakayana, tulina ebizibu eby'amaduuka ku maduuka abantu nga bakayagana, tulina abantu abalaba naabwe nga tebalina nagaano babanyaga ebintu ebyo byonna. Tulina ne program eya mediation nti abantu bajja ne batabaganyizibwa okulabika nti batawulwa. Naye n'ekirala katugenda kuba n'enteekateeka ya capacity building nti abantu tubabuulira atandika business akola atya. Omuntu avudde mu retirement ng'akola mu gavumenti, omwana amaze okusoma nga alina akakadde ke kamu bubiri oba emitwalo 5 yanditandikiddewa. Mwatu packages ezo zonna mu kasita zibaayo netulwa platform oluusi mwe tuyisa okubuulira abantu baffe. Ne Smart TV bwe banga kyekoze ketulina essuubi nti emiramu egyo gyonna n'emirala eginajja.
As the festive season goes into high gear, traders in Kampala have been warned to beware of conmen while transacting their businesses. Mr. Issa Sechito, the spokesperson of the Kampala City Traders Association, said a lot of criminals are rampant in Kampala during the festive season.
Nga tukubiriza abantu baffe number 1 beerinda ababbi bangi mu makubo mu kibuga ne mu maka gaabwe. Tebajja abantu wakabona batutuuse mu biseera ebyaganya nakongulu bafuneyo wakiri poliisi oba.
Asked about business in 2018, Sechito said traders have faced a number of challenges, such as high import taxes and the fracas at Bank of Uganda, which is said to scare away many investors.
Abantu abadde badukanya Bank of Uganda endoza yaabwe buli lwokwata ku kitafu ky'eggwanga nga Bank of Uganda baterekwa ssente n'obugagga bw'ensi ebyobusuubuzi tebiyinza kuba siteke. Olwekyo wenkanga nga abamu be tubadde tukolagana nabo ab'ebweru batya okuleeta wano ssente nga balaba poliisi ezitali consistent mu Bank of Uganda saaba mukuumi wa ssente. Naye ng'okukyalira awamu essente ffe engombo yaffe egamba nti togamba nti zibuze.
Commenting on the resignation of Jennifer Musisi, the former executive director of KCCA, Sechito suggested that traders will not be affected adversely given that she has left functional systems manned by the Kampala minister Betty Kamya. Now that wraps up the news updates here on Smart24. Stay tuned to the station for more programming and more news updates at every top of the hour.
A very good morning once again. We thank you so much for watching S24 TV, and we are having the business insights right now. Welcome back from Tush and Gashumba. Tush, how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. Frank attacked.
Now let us have a look at the transport sector. So Tush, how much do we have to pay when we want to go to Dar es Salaam? or how long do we take?
Well, for starters, there is a very useful website here that I think I will definitely have to refer to. It's called Rome to Rio. Rome to Rio, Rome to Rio.com. Two with a T, with a two, number 2.
Yes.
And on this particular website, they're saying there are 8 ways to get from Uganda to Dar es Salaam by plane, ferry, car, bus, or shuttle. So to answer your question, I'll just mention a few highlights here. They're saying they recommend that you fly, there is an available flight from Entebbe to Dar es Salaam that will take 4 hours, 38 minutes, and its range is between $142 to $566.
That is, there is no stop.
There is no
There's
stop.
no stop here.
Yes. And then, of course, there is this particular one from Bukoba, rather from the... sorry.
You drive to Bukoba.
That's by vehicle.
Yes,
that's another
and then
way of getting to Dar es Salaam.
You drive to Bukoba and then you fly to Dar es Salaam. And the total is between $104 US to $274
and
US
that should
dollars.
take you about 6 hours 46 minutes.
You can also fly fly Entebbe to Zanzibar and then get a ferry, yeah, and that will take you to for about 8 hours and 21 minutes. But also they will charge you between $270 US and $504 US.
Yes, of course, this website has a lot of other useful information. It will give you a country snippet. This is a little bit about Dar es Salaam. Some of the things to do when you're in Dar es Salaam, they are saying you could choose to visit the National Museum of Tanzania, or go to Mbudia Island, or you go to Bongoyo Island. You will obviously find different service providers that are recommended for you to check out once you're there. And the good thing is, among their recommendations, they actually give you a cheap option and an affordable option, perhaps even an expensive option. Remember, at some point, we've continuously had this discussion of when do cheap things
become expensive in the long run.
And do expect it a lot, because in our analysis, much as we provide you the cheap option, we also want you to understand that we don't necessarily recommend that you go for cheap. Understand the dynamics of how cheap it is, and get to know whether it will be expensive in the long run, and then obviously you will be guided on making the right informed decision.
But of course, we're not forgetting that you can travel through from Kampala to Dar es Salaam by bus straight, but it will take you longer. It will take you around 30 hours to 34 hours and 33 minutes to reach Dar es Salaam. So the cheaper it becomes, then the longer the hours you will take on the way, and the more expensive a flight will be or a ferry will be, then the less the hours you are going to spend on the way. Now, let's also have a look at fuel prices. We have constantly seen that fuel prices are a bit stable for the past 1 week, yeah? Yes. But we should also remember that our fuel prices are much determined by the giants, yeah, the world's biggest countries, if I may say. So, for example, in the UK, you will get approximately, in Ugandan shillings, you get for 7,000 Ugandan shillings, you could get around 3 liters. That is just 1 gallon. You get around 3 liters of petroleum, yeah, or diesel. But in the UK, they use more diesel than petroleum and gasoline. So diesel in the UK is expensive more than any other fuel, yeah. But all the other prices in America, for example, the fuel prices are also being very stable. In fact, they are coming down, if any case, and that usually explains why we see that also our prices here are stable or coming down a little bit. But a gallon in the US of gas is gasoline, I beg your pardon, is 2.5 US dollars, and that is about 7,000. Yeah, that's about 7,000 Ugandan shillings. And remember, a gallon has in 3 liters of. So that means For Ugandan shillings, for about 10,000 shillings, you're going to get more than 3 liters of fuel. What do you think? Why do you think these countries have their fuel and petroleum and gas very cheaper than what we have here?
Well, first of all, let's look at the level of development in these economies. A country like Uganda is still a developing economy, and in many countries, rather in many instances, we forget the true meaning of what it means to be a developing country.
Yeah.
That means the biggest economic indicators of economic development in such countries like Uganda, actually it's a third world country, that's what they are referred to as. The biggest economic indicators are down. Indicators like infrastructure, indicators like energy usage, indicators like education systems, health, and so on and so forth. Now, it actually even trickles down to policy and governance. The moment you have such issues down, you will definitely expect us to have an unbalanced equation with highly developed economies like Russia, Germany, the USA, among others, China, and many others. So, for starters, I want to assume it is very preposterous for us to assume that our prices could ever match theirs unless we are at the same level of economic development. That's one. Two, they have fully developed. I'm looking for the right statements here. They have fully developed usage systems that are there. I'll give you an example. We have oil in Uganda, and what in the corners has it that we have known about this oil for more than 50 years now. However, even to date, that it has been made public that we are going to drill our oil, we are still taking centuries.
Yeah.
The last thing we knew we had was that we're supposed to have our oil ready for consumption by 2020. However, every other day we hear excuses coming up. Talo Oil, EP, Sinok, and now the Uganda National Oil Company haven't yet finalized these negotiations, and as a result, we will not be able to have affordable oil for Ugandans as long as we do not produce our own oil. Now, there are countries that do not produce their own oil, but they have well-developed systems.
Yeah.
And they are able to enjoy the benefits of having established oil pipelines, distribution channels to different petrol stations, which makes it cheaper. We still need to have vehicles transport oil, rather fuel, across borders to bring it to our petrol stations here in Uganda.
Yeah, for example, the UK has a special diesel pipeline that gets for them diesel from Iran and those big countries, big producing countries. Yeah,
yes,
special for that particular country. Now that explains one of the reasons why the prices of diesel are very cheap, are very expensive, but in the sense of comparing the price with ours, it's very cheap. Theirs is very cheap. But also because the cars that they run use many of the cars they have the diesel cars. That is why you find diesel will be more expensive than the other fuels in the UK.
Yes, indeed.
But then here in Uganda, what do you think we can do now to increase the productivity of oil? Even when we have the oil and we have not started to drill it, what do you think we can do, something small that we can do?
Unfortunately, if I gave you a response to that, I would be lying. We need particularly to understand how the oil distribution systems of Uganda work. We need to understand how many petrol stations we have already existing and who owns them. We need to understand how much is incurred in the transportation of this oil, and if it is a lot, what can we do to reduce the cost of getting oil all the way from the tanks at the ports in Mombasa to cross borders into Uganda? We need to understand most of those dynamics. So my boss told me to say, I'm sorry, I don't know.
But also I think the government can implement some of the measures that we see other countries are using. The cost will be much. and maybe as a country it could be close to impossible that we can afford it, but the government could have a small look at what other governments are doing. But Uganda is known to be a net importer. We have so many imports than the exports that we have, so we should do something concerning the oil and gas sector. But of course it's good news that we will have our oil by 2021.